Hello everybody, happy Wednesday, happy midweek, happy hump day, happy little weekend. It is Wednesday and that means we're here for our weekly live here in the One Step Outside Facebook group. So first of all, as ever, a massive welcome to our new members. I've seen quite a few new faces being welcomed into the group. For those of you who are new, first of all, my name is Anna Lundberg. Hopefully you've come to the right place. I'm the founder of One Step Outside. Excuse me. One step outside, which by the way comes from the quote, everything you've ever wanted is one step outside your comfort zone. And when I was first developing the business, I was very much focused, as I am now as well, on growth, getting out of my comfort zone, challenging myself, doing a few different things. So hopefully you are here for that reason as well. So One Step Outside. I'm also the host of the Reimagining Success podcast and the author of Leaving the Corporate 9 to 5, stories from people who've done it and how you can too. So those of you who are new, hopefully you've been welcomed into the group by Cara or Jamila. So they're part of the One Step team. And they'll be keeping in touch with you over the coming weeks, making sure you're getting what you want from the group. So thank you in advance to them as well. Now, for those of you who are new, you won't know perhaps that we have been talking all things personal branding and content creation, content strategy in the past weeks. We did a challenge a few weeks ago where we looked at sort of the big picture of who our clients are and what content we should be creating and how to bring that to life. And hello, do say hi when you come on, tell me where you're watching from, maybe do the usual weather update. So great to see you guys. This week we're talking about the number one thing that you will need to be successful with your content online and your business, to be honest. So let's take a big step back to that. And as much as I am a massive fan of visions and goals and strategies, those don't do you a whole lot of good if they're just lying there in the drawer, sitting there in a folder in your computer, whatever it might be. So as much as it's great and important to have strategies, that's not really going to make a difference unless, of course, you implement it. And so the number one thing we've been focusing on this week on the blog, it'll be coming on the podcast tomorrow, Reimagining Success again, is consistency. It's come up a few times, but I thought it was worth spending actually a whole session on it. So, it's not particularly exciting, it's not very sexy, and certainly when I started my business, I didn't want to be consistent and have a routine. I wanted to be creative and be free and just do what I felt like, which is fine, there is a phase for that. However, if we want consistent results, we're going to have to put in consistent effort. And we'll talk about in a moment the 3 different benefits I see for 3 different audiences actually of consistency. So it's not just for the business, it's actually for 3 different audiences. So let's go straight to that actually. So first of all, it's for your sake. I cannot tell you, if you haven't done this before, by the way, I cannot tell you how reassuring it is to wake up in the morning, to look on your board, to know what you're doing that day, that week. You've got the blog post going, you're doing the email, you're posting your Facebook group, whatever it might be, and doing that consistently. It saves you so much time and energy opening up your laptop going, oh, I need to do something, maybe I'll do, oh no, maybe I'll do that, and no, perhaps, oh, but I did that, oh no, and what should the theme be? Certainly when I sit down to try to write a blog post, and I don't have an idea of what I'm going to talk about, it takes a whole lot of time and energy to get into the zone of knowing what I want to talk about, and then sit down, draft it, and then actually write it. So that's a very slow process. So the first benefit to you all is to you as the business owner. You'll wake up clear, confident, knowing exactly what you need to focus on with clear priorities. The second benefit is to the audience, because they'll come to expect that you'll be posting on certain days and times. Hopefully they'll look forward to the blog post on Tuesdays, the Facebook Live on Wednesday evenings, the new podcast episode on Thursdays, and so on. So that's really helping to build a relationship with them and to build that trust, which is incredibly important in terms of building the relationship, to nurture that relationship, but also then to sell to them ultimately, which is what you're hoping to do. Building your brand, building those relationships, and ultimately selling to them. And the third benefit is to the business, of course, because as I said, if you're putting in consistent effort, that's what's going to give you consistent results in the business. So it's as simple as that, really. So consistency, good for you, good for the audience and good for the business, which is pretty much convincing, I'm sure. So hopefully you now get why I go on about consistency so much, even though it's not particularly exciting. But hang on a second, what am I even talking about when I talk about consistency? And let me tell you first a few things of what consistency is not. So first of all, consistency is not, as I've done in the past, sporadically just throwing out ideas whenever you come across something, sometimes writing a blog post on a Monday, sometimes letting it go 3 weeks, sometimes doing several in a row, sometimes sending emails and then not sending emails. So that's not consistency. First of all, being sporadic and random in your content, as much as it's important to be inspired by things that you're experiencing, what your clients are coming up with and so on. There is a role for that, but you probably want to jot that down, park it for now, and then insert it into your content calendar when it's appropriate. So there is a role for that spontaneity, but really that's not consistency, and that's not helping you, your audience, or your business. Likewise, again, if you're doing it sort of sometimes sticking to something, sometimes not, that's not building that trust. People just don't know when they can expect things from you. And it just, if they do think it's coming on a Thursday and it doesn't come on Thursday, that certainly happened to me with podcasts as well. They're ultimately disappointed, which is not what you want. And then the other thing that consistency is not is starting something, for example, a Facebook Live, and then after a few weeks giving up because you know what, hardly anyone turned up and it's a bit embarrassing and I don't want to do it. Or starting a newsletter but losing interest after a few weeks as well. So you're giving up really then before you've had a chance to see results. So that's what consistency is not. What consistency is, on the other side, the opposite of that really, is creating content strategically, systematically, I know it's very exciting, that really fits the different pieces of the puzzle together into the bigger picture of who you are and what your brand stands for. So really creating and sharing consistently. Secondly, sharing consistently means that you've got that regular schedule, certain days, things are going out, and again, each of those pieces of the puzzle is building up into that bigger, cohesive brand and strategy. And it also means you want to stick with a strategy for long enough to see the results. Again, benefits for you. You can actually see how it goes, get used to it, get into rhythm, get comfortable with it, and really see if you enjoy it, if it's the right thing for you. For the audience, because they get a chance to know, oh, okay, she's doing a live every Wednesday evening, I might want to join next week actually and see what happens. And then again for the business, because you need at least 3 months to see if the results are actually going to be coming in with that particular strategy before you go, okay, I've done my best, I've tried this, I don't enjoy it, people aren't coming, and let me try something else. So that's what I think consistency is. And then to wrap up, really, to conclude on consistency, of course, we want to know how we can achieve that consistency. And the first one is actually going back to the vision and the strategy. So really having the big picture understanding of who your clients are, what kind of content they want to see, what do they need to know, what do they want to know, what content are you going to be creating, and really planning out that strategy. So we talked in the challenge a couple of weeks ago about the sweet spot between your brand on the one side and the client on the other side. And that's really where your content's going to sit, that's going to meet your business goals, but also be something that the audience wants to hear about. So that's important. So the first thing is the strategy. The second thing is planning, and again, on the last day of the challenge, we looked at planning out our content over a month, and actually 3 months ideally. So we talked about, okay, this is our theme for the month maybe, this is our topic for that week, and this is the particular focus we're going to have. Again, that planning is going to help you stick to the fact that your blog post goes out on Tuesdays, your Facebook Live is on Wednesdays, your podcast is on Thursdays, and so on. And so that's really powerful, and the email on Fridays in my case, for example. So strategy, planning, and then third, of course, you have to show up. You have to actually implement it. You have to do the work, because again, you can have all these pretty strategies, all these lovely plans and so on, and then what? You're not actually doing it. And this is perhaps the hardest part, the least sexy, least exciting piece that no one really talks about, which is actually doing that hard work. Now, I'm certainly not a fan of the crazy hustling, of giving up all work-life balance and stressing yourself out. You need to set boundaries. However, we also need to recognise that this is going to be work. Yes, it is work. It's going to be hard work. Now, we're going to make it fun. Don't worry. And to be honest, again, having that routine and habit really is liberating and empowering. So try it and see how you find it. I've certainly really enjoyed it, and it makes a big difference to me. But again, consistency and showing up every day even when people don't turn up to your live, even when you're not quite getting the downloads on your podcast, even if people aren't coming to your webinar or reading your emails or signing up to your program, whatever it is, you have to understand that it's going to take time. And over time, people are behind the scenes reading, they're watching, they may not be liking, commenting, engaging actively, but they're still absorbing what you're saying. You're building that relationship, they're getting to know, like and trust you even behind the scenes, and you never know when they're going to sort of stick their head up and go, hello, I'd like to work with you, or begin to go to the next stage of actually talking to you and seeing how you can help. So again, strategy, planning, and actually doing the work. And the number one takeaway for you is consistency. So for all this talk of strategy, for all this talk of visions and creative ideas and thinking about the clients and so on, you really want to be showing up every day, every week. And remember, this is going to help you as the business owner. It's going to help the audience build that trust and the expectation. And then finally, it's going to help the business, because putting in consistent effort will give you consistent results. And we've talked in the past about when you're first starting out, you know, a bit of sort of trying things, trial and error, spontaneity, and seeing how things goes is really important. It's an important part of the experimentation, and we don't really know, we're maybe doing everything ourselves and we're sort of just spending some time exploring, and that's really important. But there is a point at which we go, no, hang on a second, I want to take this business seriously, I want to take this to the next level, and that means really looking at the strategy, planning out how the content is going to work. And then, by the way, you then have an end goal in mind. I know, for example, that I'm going to relaunch the One Step Outside the 9 to 5 program in August. Then I can work back from that, make sure that the content, the relationships I'm building, the people I'm speaking to really flows into that. And it just gives me that sort of red thread throughout the next few weeks and months to know that that's the direction I'm heading in, for example. Now that seems quite far away, so I'm sure there'll be other things in the meantime. But you can see that there you're really thinking, okay, I'm launching this graphic design subscription service, or I'm launching this new regular event, or whatever it might be, a new product, a new service. And then you can work your way back, doing the salesy bit at the end, doing the engaging piece in the middle, doing the awareness raising at the start. So say it with me, the number one thing that's going to make you successful in your content is consistency. So I hope that's an important reminder, if nothing else, of something that we perhaps don't like to talk about too much, that having to show up every day and do the same thing, it's not too exciting. Again, things become a habit, they become a routine, it becomes much easier. And in fact, we're going to be continuing in this vein a little bit in the coming weeks, because next week we're looking at the reality of what it takes to show up every day, to be an entrepreneur, to build that sustainable business. So do join us next week. It'll be a little bit of the dark side, just a bit of the day-to-day reality of really what it takes to run that business. But don't worry, of course, if you've been following me for a while, if you're part of my community, and hello, people who keep popping on and popping off, you know that I believe really that having your own business is the best thing to create the freedom, the flexibility, the fulfillment that we all so long for. So of course there will be strategies, and there'll be ways in which we can solve these particular challenges and so on. So don't worry, we're just going to have 1 week next week when we really face the reality of the day-to-day grind, I suppose, of what it takes to run your business. And then we'll begin to look at why, again, the business is the absolute best way to get that freedom and flexibility. We'll look at concrete, practical strategies to deal with those different challenges. So thanks so much. Hope you've watched this and taken away the important reminder of consistency being so important. If you're watching the replay, as ever, you can comment and ask questions as well. And we will be back next week, Wednesday evening, 8 o'clock again. And as I said, we're facing then the reality of what it takes to run a business. So if you haven't run a business yet, if you're thinking about doing it, this is a great opportunity to hop in, hear a little bit about sort of the harder parts of it maybe, ask your questions. If you're more experienced as well, maybe you've been feeling down a little bit, or maybe you just want to come on and share your wisdom and support and encouragement with the other people in the group, which I love in this community. I'd love to see you there live again next Wednesday, 8 o'clock here in the group. So thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you back here soon. Bye for now.